We have suggested quite a number of amendments to make sure, and these are acts that are in existence that do not respect devolution. They have been there before devolution, and no effort has been made to amend them. One is the Dairy Industry Act, Cap 336, the Crops Act 2013, the Fisheries Management Development Act number 35 of 2016, the Cooperative Societies Act, Cap 490, and Circle Society Act, and Micro and Small Enterprises Act 2015, the Special Economic Zone Act 2015, the Housing Act, the Surveying Act, the Kenya Roads Act, I'll now end on the Kenya Roads Act. We have pointed out special areas that we need these particular acts that I have mentioned to be amended so that they respect devolution. On the Kenya Roads Act, we already agreed under the IBEC, Intergovernmental Budget and Economic Committee, which is chaired by the Deputy President, we agreed that the allocation to counties in view of the recent classification of roads, sharing of roads between the national government and the county government, be increased from 15 to 20% of the share that is collected under the road maintenance levy fund. This was agreed, but unfortunately, this has not been amended. Now, the KEMSA Amendment Act, we are proposing that this act be amended because the way the act is at the present, it has created a monopoly, which is against the Monopolies Act, which forces the county government, all county governments and other government agencies to purchase medicines and drugs from KEMSA, which is not possible because at the moment KEMSA has no capacity, and sometimes you order and it takes as long as 2 months to have deliveries, and this creates a problem on service delivery. Now, on Health Act 2018, there are sections of the Act that close back on the function of the county health services as assigned in the 4th schedule of the Constitution. We are proposing that we amend this Act and that the role of the Kenya Health Human Resource Advisory Council should not override the role of county governments in the management of health personnel. County governments cannot be left out in decisions concerning posting of medical specialists. County Director of Health cannot report to the Director General since they are officers of the county government structure. The discretion to upgrade or downgrade a facility should not rest with the Director General, but the process should be consultative with the respective county governments. An intergovernmental committee should be set up to provide leadership and oversight on matters of upgrading or downgrading health facilities. And what we are saying that we are opposed to establishment of a health commission, because by the time you establish a health commission where county governments have no control, that is going to cause a problem, as we are having the same problem of TSC and Ministry of Education. Now, on issue requiring constitutional amendment, the ethics, the issue of council government proposing to have a parliamentary system, that has been withdrawn. We have withdrawn that. We will go straight away to the next one, the structure of national government. We at the Council of Governance, we support a national executive comprising of the President as the head of state, Deputy President, Prime Minister as head of government, and 2 deputy prime ministers. And we also propose the cabinet shall consist of not more than 18 ministers and 22 deputies among members of parliament. All deputies to come from members of parliament, but the minister at least 1/3 to be appointed from outside parliament. And the appointment should comply with 2/3 gender rule and reflect regional and ethnic diversity. Office of the Leader of Opposition, this should be created in the government structure. The leader of the party or the coalition of parties with the second largest number of seats shall be the leader of official opposition, and he shall have a deputy. The leader of opposition shall appoint a shadow cabinet. Office of the Attorney General. The Council proposed the Office of the Attorney General to be independent and should have security of tenure. The office of the County Attorney, which is the law office of the county government, should be anchored in the Constitution. The County Cassette to also be anchored in the Constitution. Devolution. The Council proposes that the Senate should be made the upper house in Parliament, and the Senate to consider and approve all international treaties and all bills, including money bills, and approve all appointments by the President. The Senate Service Commission should be established. Appointment and removal of deputy governor. Expressly, we should provide for the filling of the vacancy in the office of deputy governor by the governor with the approval of the county assembly. Provide for grounds and procedure for removal of a deputy governor. Nairobi City County, all the 47 county government to be maintained, as such including Nairobi City County government. Establishment of Health Commission, I think I have commended this proposal that was mentioned earlier in the BBI. The constitution design where each level of government is meant to manage its own personnel. Otherwise, you will be creating a problem. Division of revenue and equitable share of national revenue. Parliament should adhere to the technical recommendation by CRA regarding division of revenue between national government and county government. Any deviation should not exceed 3% of the total recommendation of the CRA. CRA to cost the function of devolved function and ensure that allocation of resources is commensurate to the respective function. Counties shall guarantee their loans subject to approval by the county assemblies and CRA. Chairman, I'm withdrawing that particular provision. What we are now saying is that there should be a blanket approval by the National Assembly on the figure that is allocated, nationally allocated to the counties. And the counties should be allowed to access that particular allocation without necessarily going through, again, individual approval at the National Assembly. But the approval of the county assembly shall remain. CRA shall approve borrowing by both the national government and the county government. So before you take the application to the county assembly, there should be agreement with CRA. The minimum threshold of the county government equitable share we are recommending that it should be increased from the current 15% to 45%. County assemblies, financial autonomy, we are saying that establishing a county assembly fund to exist along the county revenue fund. Special interest groups, youth and women, and persons with disabilities. We are saying 5% of the allocation to counties shall be reserved for special interest groups, women, youth, and people with disabilities. And food security, we are saying every county and even at the national level, at least 10% of each county budget to be set aside for agriculture, food security. Senior citizens and children, at least 5% of own own source revenue to be set aside for this particular group. Ward Equitable Development Fund, we are saying that there shall be a Ward Equitable Development Fund established in every county comprising of 10%, not 30%, that's a typing error, of the current county development budget. Judiciary Fund, 2% of revenue to be allocated to the judiciary to make sure that the judiciary is independent and is able to do its work without any financial constraint. Now, fines emanating from county laws, we are recommending that these fines should be deposited from county revenue to the county revenue account to form part of the own source revenue. Fines on our own functions. What is happening now, these fines still go to the national government and they do not accrue to the county government. On equalization fund, the equalization fund shall be distributed to the counties by CRA and implemented at the ward level. Chairman, you will notice that equalization fund came up with devolution, but up to now, it has not been implemented. On the National Treasury, we are saying the National Treasury should be an independent institution to serve both levels of government, to serve both national and county government. The way it is behaving now, it is as if it is a national institution serving only the national government. And then we are recommending that there must be two IFMI system because of the experiences we have, one serving at national government and the other one serving the county government, and they should be able to interact. And then we are saying, and I had mentioned this earlier, approval by the control of budget be at county level and not national level, because we need approvals on daily basis, and it becomes very expensive keeping staff here chasing for approval when the control budget has staff already at the regional level. National Treasury to transfer money to county revenue fund whether or not they have balances. They have introduced an administrative hindrance on county government that when you have more money if you have money in your county revenue fund, then they do not disperse funds to you, even if the money is committed. And this has been an issue all along, and we feel this is the time to have it resolved. There is no law that provides, the law provides transfer of money by 15th of every month, whether there are balances or not. Allocation of funds from donors, the funds allocated from donors and development partners should flow to the counties without any delay. As we talk now, last year, funds from donors for agriculture has not even been transferred to the county governments, and is still sitting somewhere either in the Ministry of Agriculture or at the the Treasury. Sharing of revenue for natural resources. We are saying that all contracts for the exploitation of natural resources shall be made public. The national government shall get 70% of the benefits, county governments 25%, and the communities where the natural resource is will get 5%. County government should represent the interest of local communities in signing of the contract for exploitation after a proper public participation. On political parties, we need to strengthen political parties, and all political parties should reflect the face of Kenya. Establishment of an independent political parties commission and tribunal, which shall register all political parties, carry out party audits, regulate campaign financing, and supervise party nomination. This one is when we shall entrench parties, and family parties, tribal parties will fall off, so that we have strong parties as in other developed countries. Gender and special interests. To achieve a 2/3 gender party rule, the Council proposes the use of proportionate representation system. Political parties should use a competitive, transparent, and verifiable system before arriving at a party list. Election. Council of Governors recommends the establishment of an independent electoral and boundaries commission, which is devolved in all the 47 counties. The county election should be handled and concluded at the county level. So the current IBC just deals only with the presidential elections. And when this IBC is devolved, they can arrange their own election within a particular period, within those particular counties. On security, the Council of Governors recommends the county government to be represented in the National Security Council, and the county policing authority be established in the Constitution. As we speak now, Chair, there is the county policing authority, which has not been operationalized, because the provision at the moment is that they must be, while they operate in counties, but they must be funded by the national government. So the funding for this particular county policing authority is not forthcoming. So they are there established, but not operationalized because of funds. We cannot put our funds on that because it will be illegal as provided for in law. On bills of rights, we are saying the President should report annually to Parliament the extent of compliance for each county with Articles 43, 53, 54, 55, 56, and 57 of the Constitution. Lastly, we are saying, Chairman, that primary, because since establishment of devolution, we have got pressure from secondary schools, primary schools, because of inadequacy of infrastructure at that level. And all counties have spent quite a bit of money to support primary schools and secondary schools. And we are recommending that the function of developing infrastructure for primary and secondary school should be devolved to counties. The county government being closer to citizens and understanding the unique circumstances in each school community are better placed to plan and ensure implementation of infrastructure development based on population indicators. This will ensure that we have enough facilities to absorb the 100% transition. So we have the summary of recommendation attached. And ladies and gentlemen, Chairman, that's what I have. But before we conclude, I will give my colleagues here, my colleagues that have come to me with me, if they have something to comment on what I have presented, so that there is an input from them, starting with Governor Anna Waiguru.
Thank you, Chairman, and you have heard, I think mine is just to emphasize on a matter that I have been at the forefront of during this process of BBI. You have seen we have recommended for the 2/3 gender rule at the cabinet level, but we did not mention it. I would like to clarify that we expect that the whole of cabinet, including at the top, the executive, should be gender balanced, so that we don't only have one gender. And I should comment that at the moment at the table in front of me, I think it would be nice if we saw a mix of gender, and that's what we're really pushing for out there. It's something I'm sure you know has been supported widely across the country. So we would like to see gender balanced in the cabinet, starting from the executive, not just at the cabinet level. So at the top, amongst the 5 seats that are there, there should be gender balance. As a matter of fact, we would prefer that it's alternative gender, where if the president is a male, then we would want to see one of the deputies to be female and vice versa, whichever party presents the candidates. I think that is the what we are trying to achieve with the party list, and I think that will address the issue of the gender concern at the national level, but at the county level as well, we expect the same to apply. That is already a proposal in the BBI report, and we support it on the alternative gender rule. Thank you. The other thing I would want to emphasize is on the issue of resources. That the resources usually pegged on the last audited reports. And so we say at least 15% of the last audited. What happens then is that they delay the audited reports. I think the Constitution should also provide that now that we're saying 45%, we don't just say last audited, but say the previous year. So it is upon the government to ensure that their audits are actually not delayed, so that the resources that go to the county are reduced. So to emphasize the fact that they should really be tied to the previous budget, allocation, the previous year, as opposed to the last audited. Thank you.
Yeah, Governor Ongwae.
Thank you very much, and we thank the committee for inviting us. I really don't have much because what my chair has indicated has been completely exhaustive, but let me just reiterate 1 or 2 issues. One is the issue of NHIF. About over 90% of the patients in this country go to public facilities, and yet you have a National Hospital Insurance Fund that mainly facilitates, broadly speaking, private facilities where you're between 5 and 10% of Kenyans going. I think this is a matter that you need to look at very seriously. The support to public facilities, if they are able to access funds from NHIF, will ensure that they improve on their services, both on infrastructure, both on the area of commodities, on the area of human resources, because of the resources that will be able to go to these facilities, and therefore ultimately actually improve on health services. The other area that I wanted to restate also, we have been managing counties for the last 7 years. Housing, which is devolved, we absolutely have no control. Survey, we have no control. you need to come out strongly in these areas. We have a secretariat that is managing our affairs, which doesn't even get any funding because it's not anchored anywhere. We wanted you to bring it out because what it does is that it syndicates all our efforts, harmonizes the abilities of counties, and ensures that both vertical and horizontal understanding of issues with national government and between counties is clear. We sincerely would want that to come out very strongly, and even its own funding. Finally is the issue of the government, the type of government structure that we desire as this country moving forward. The structure that we have recommended is a structure not only for the present but also for the future, and we do urge that you look at it very seriously. Thank you very much, committee members. Thank you.
Governor Ngamati.
Thank you, Chair. I also want, Chair, just to reiterate a few things that the chairman has mentioned. I think one is just to, in line with what Governor Ann has mentioned on resources allocation. Last year, Chair, we had a very big issue, the division of revenue between the national government and the county government. And this issue affected counties very, very much. And I think our view, as the Chair has mentioned, is to say, look, if CRA has made a recommendation, let's stick with it. Once the Commission of Revenue Allocation has made a recommendation, I think it is better that it's enshrined within the Constitution, that then becomes the recommendation to share revenues between national government and the counties. Second, Chair, one issue that I'm also very passionate about, and I think the Chair has mentioned, this issue of these two bodies called KURA and KERA, Kenya Urban Roads Authority and the Kenya Rural Roads Authority. I mean, when you just look at Kenya Rural Roads Authority, it is meant to look at the rural roads in the counties. And I think we have a very big issue because nobody and all the citizens in the counties, when they see a road that is being done, they think the county government has the responsibility. Our view, Chair, it's very important that you take this, that both KURA and KERA, our view that it should be part and parcel of the county government. Because even KERA, Chair, when you look at the name, KERA, Kenya Rural Roads Authority, it is talking about roads in the rural, which is basically county roads. So I think that duplication, the fact that it's a national government agency, doesn't make sense. The citizens at the county level do not appreciate that those roads are national government roads, and I think it is important that that is harmonized so that that falls back to county government. The last one, Chair, the Chair mentioned the issue of KEMSA. It's important that I reiterate that as well, that I think the act that came into effect 2019 last year, basically making KEMSA monopoly, is a very big issue. I think, Chair, it is something that I think you must look at it and help us, because it has created a monopoly that does not have the capacity to deal with the issues of supplies to the counties. And I think where we sit, Chair, I think is an issue. We had even gone to court about it. So it's important that you look at it, Chair. Otherwise, thank you.
Thank you very much. We have a very short time for Q&A. I want to see the hands that want to ask questions so that I create a ruling on how many questions you can answer, which you can't defy, because the microphone will be taken away from you. Let me see the hands. Okay, I've seen around 8 hands. 1 question each, all in one round. Then the chair and his colleagues will answer at once. Don't explain your question. Ask your question, they'll explain. the answer. Because I'm the one who is emceeing, me, I'll be allowed 2 questions. My first question is, when you have said that all the 47 county governments to be maintained as such